Good afternoon, my name's Conklin McLeod with NBN News. A Fernbay couple welcome Ukrainians home in the Hunter. A man who strangled his 18-year-old girlfriend to death at Morpeth goes on trial at the Newcastle Supreme Court. And both and Kurt Mann to return for the Newcastle Knights out of their clash with the Penrith Panthers on Sunday. While New South Wales gets ready to quickly win State of Origin game number 1. Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of NBN News because of the State of Origin. And of course, in an extraordinary display of kindness, Fernbay couple Mark and Jenny Chappell have welcomed 5 Ukrainian refugees into their new home. Ina Chuchenko says they are a big miracle. Now the Chappells want to help more Ukrainians find their way into the Hunter. And of course, because of that, I'm sitting around the dining room table in a room filled with warmth and laughter. It's hard to believe that not long ago, this unconventional family were complete strangers. It takes a special kind of person to welcome the unknown and courage to make a leap of faith from a country ravaged by war into the home of a couple these Ukrainian families had only ever met in a few times over video. But for Fernbay's Mark and Jenny Chappell, there was never a question about opening their home to people who no longer had one to go to. Meanwhile, Mr. Chappell said it was just something inside us that said we needed to do something. It was this desire to want to help. Meanwhile, he continued on. From this moment the invasion happened, I just had a hollow feeling inside me, and it drove the passion to want to help people, help someone, because it was so wrong what was happening. We aren't made of money. We couldn't make any massive offerings other than extend the position of helping someone with warmth and embracing of helping them with the pathway. About 6 years ago, Mr. Chappell did some work in Ukraine. Meanwhile, he developed a network of friends and business associations in a country that while never exactly peaceful, had fought hard against political instability to establish a young democracy. Meanwhile, so on February 24 this year, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Mr. Chappell and his wife were left fuming, much the same way the world was, helpless and numb. But instead of staying stuck, the couple leaped into action, contacting old friends until somehow they still aren't entirely sure how. The pair connected with soon-to-be parents Ina and Yuri Chichenko. The couple were in Thailand, where they built a successful tourism business focused on the Russian-speaking market. It collapsed almost instantly, and with just weeks left on their visas, they were told it wouldn't be renewed. They couldn't return home, and they couldn't stay where they were. They went to bed each night praying for a sign. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Now to the courts, and of course, a man who strangled his 18-year-old girlfriend to death at Morpeth in 2020 because he thought she was a demon does not have a mental health impairment defense available because the physiosis he was suffering was caused solely by using LSD and cannabis, a Newcastle Supreme Court jury has been told. There's no dispute that it was Jordan Brody Miller, who is now 21, who killed his girlfriend, Emerald Wardell, at a home in Galway Crescent in the early hours of June 2020. And a warning, this story is extremely disturbing. Miller confessed that night, telling police he thought his girlfriend was a demon who was sucking the life out of him, but Mr. Miller has pleaded not guilty to murder and has raised a defense of mental health impairment with a 2-week trial focusing on his mental state around the time of the killing and what caused him to be in a psychotic state. The prosecution case is Mr. Miller's mental state was a result of drug-induced psychosis linked to LSD and cannabis he used in the days before Miss Wardell was killed. But the defense, led by the public defender Peter Christopher, say Mr. Miller was suffering from a first episode of psychosis in the form of an underlying chronic schizophrenia. Meanwhile, the two sides developed their closing addresses on Tuesday, attempting to crystallize and drill down into the crucial issue of Mr. Miller's mental health. Meanwhile, SC Crown Prosecutor Lee Carr told the jury Mr. Miller did not have a mental health impairment because his condition was caused solely by the temporary effort of ingesting LSD and cannabis. He pointed to the reports of Professor David Greenberg, who opined Mr. Miller's psychotic episode was temporarily, but no, it was absolutely unacceptable. And also, it was related to his use of prohibited drugs. Mr. Carr said Professor Greenberg gave evidence that it was premature to definitely diagnose Mr. Miller with schizophrenia. Meanwhile, Justice Richard Kavanagh will sum up on Thursday. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Firearms and 2 Joeys are in police custody after a rural crime investigation spanning the Hunter Valley. The 4-day Operation Devil Arc was run to weed out illegal hunters, trespassers, and stock movements. It covered Elliston, Barrington Tops, Nundle, Nowandock, Marundi, Willow Tree, and the Timor areas, concluding on Monday. Meanwhile, police conducted 27 livestock carrier inspections and 26 hunting vehicle stops. Meanwhile, on Saturday afternoon, they stopped a 27-year-old man at Gundy, north of Muswellbrook, after allegedly finding two juvenile kangaroos in his custody. Meanwhile, the man was arrested and had his gun license suspended. He was released a short time pending inquiries. A 19-year-old will face court in July after police allegedly found a machete and knuckle dusters in a separate Marundi traffic stop on Sunday night. Sports up next as Kurt Mann to return for the Newcastle Knights in their clash against Penrith, and New South Wales getting ready to secure a win in Game 1 of the State of Origin. To the NRL, and of course, Knights utility Kurt Mann looks set to return from injury via the interchange bench in Newcastle's clash with Penrith on Sunday. Mann was named at number 14 on Tuesday in the Knights side, much similar to the team that beat the Warriors 24-16 before the bye last week. The 20-year-old hasn't featured for the Knights since the club's controversial 39-2 loss to the Eels in round 7. He rolled his ankle at training in the days after the game, but was forced into an extended layoff after discovering an aneurysm had ruptured into an ankle injury. To the State of Origin, and of course, game number 1 is just hours' time, and because of it, the Knights, Jacob Saifidi and Tyson Frizzell are in the reserves. And because of that, they're hoping to score tries in New South Wales's huge game against Queensland to secure a win for the Blues. It's a huge one for New South Wales, and because of that, the match takes place in Sydney tonight. And also, it's a huge but massive amount of history. Whoever wins the 3-0 games, whoever wins the 3 Origin games makes history. But also, Brad Fittler is once again the New South Wales Blues Origin coach, while Billy Slater is the Queensland Maroons Origin coach. And of course, because of that, Fittler, or Frederica as Andrew Johns just loves to call him, is of course very funny right on the field. But off the field, his commentary provides everything. But however, New South Wales have got a really good lineup right throughout the entire game. Meanwhile, Brad Fittler is the coach. The reserves are, of course, the Knights' Jacob Saifidi and Tyson Frizzell. And of course, New South Wales are hoping to secure a win. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. And of course, the weather's next for Newcastle and the Hunter. To the weather now, and it was alright for Newcastle, and of course it will be absolutely fine for tomorrow, as well as it can be mostly sunny. Meanwhile, there was a maximum of 16 for Newcastle, and of course it was mostly sunny as well. And also, but tomorrow it'll be a maximum of 16 and a minimum of 5 with mostly sunny. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the 7-day forecast, as it was 16 for Newcastle, as well as Toronto and Wallsend. It was also the same for the Hunter, which is also good, and of course it was mostly sunny, but the winds westerly 25 to 35 kilometers an hour. The daytime maximum temperatures between 10 to 15 knots. And of course, tomorrow it'll be partly cloudy with a chance of morning frost in the upper Hunter. The winds westerly 20 to 30 kilometers an hour. The overnight temperatures falling to between 2 and 5, with daytime temperatures reaching between 10 and 15. Now let's go up to the 7-day forecast for the Hunter. It will be right for Newcastle with 16. Maitland had 15 and Singleton had 15 as well, so too did Gosford, while Scone had 12. And that's it for this afternoon edition of NBN News because of the state of origin. But we'll have NBN News in the evening tomorrow. Thanks again for your company. I'm Colin Glenn McLeod. Good afternoon.